and welcome into the newest episode of Pat's Latest. I'm your host, Mike Gambardella, and today we break out the crystal ball and take a look at potentially some of the top free agents that could end up joining your New England Patriots. A player on each side of the ball that could essentially be a surprise cut once training camp does get underway in just a few weeks, and looking at those offensive and defensive upgrades that the Patriots could use to really get over the playoff hump. Before we get started, make sure you go down and subscribe for our channel. Get into the comments and let us know who you think will be the quote-unquote surprise cut that we might not see potentially coming, and also who you'd like to see the Patriots pick up in free agency as the last remaining players are scooped up. Also, make sure you give us a like if you like what you hear, and go back and check out all of our old episodes after this one. We start looking at that top offensive player to add, and believe it or not, it is not a wide receiver. As we mentioned on yesterday's episode, the best path forward for the Patriots right now is to work with the wide receivers that they have in their room, give them a chance to flourish, especially under Josh McDaniels' new system, and really put Drake May in the best position to succeed by focusing on the offensive line. And for me, that is bringing in competition for Cole Strange at that left guard spot, and that would be veteran Brandon Scherf. And I think it makes a lot of sense all in all, especially with a competitive running back room with Ramondre Stevenson, Trey Henderson, getting Antonio Gibson in there as well as the undrafted free agent Lan Larison. I think there's enough competition to go around there. I think what you need really, you've got Will Campbell locked in at tackle. You've got Morgan Moses bookending him on the other side. Michael Onwenu is there. You got Bradbury, and as well as having a rookie with him and Wilson out of Georgia. It's that left guard spot that there's just question marks. And again, you'd love to see a first round draft pick like Cole Strange step up, but I think there needs to be a plan B, and Brandon Scherf absolutely can be that, in either push Cole Strange to be the best version of himself or step in and become that, anchor on that left guard spot and not having to worry as much about, quote unquote, where's that weak link for it, and giving Drake May the best protection possible, getting him to a point where he's comfortable. He knows that blitz is going to be picked up, that he's got guys that can switch off, making sure that he's put in the best position to succeed. That's wide receivers, tight end, running back, and offensive line. So key to that operation. And for me, that is the smart move. And again, I think he's one of the top earners that is out there. So obviously you would need him on a smaller deal at 33 years old. You would want kind of that quote unquote veteran deal, just coming in to help the franchise. I think he's past the point of making those big money deals unless there is an injury that facilitates that for another team. So it would be smarter to make that deal now. But unfortunately, agents are smart. They know exactly what I just said, and they want to wait it out. So, unfortunately, I don't think that there's urgency on either side, but I think it could make a lot of sense if the Patriots decide that the salary cap dollars work for them and work for Brandon Scherf as well. Additionally, instead of looking at a player to add, let's look at a player on the offensive side of the ball that could end up on the chopping block. And for me, I really do believe the writing is on the wall for Kendrick Bourne. Worked his way back from injury last year, but unfortunately was not the same player. And again, you get another year to get that under you, but that's another year in your athletic career, and those start to add up. I can tell you, I'm a wannabe athlete, and feeling it now at my age, I can only imagine what it's like being in the NFL day in and day out and taking that type of grind. I think for Kendrick Bourne, unfortunately, a guy that, if the season were to start today, he is the number 4 or really number 5 or 6 wide receiver on this roster, and that's behind Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins, Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams, and then is it Kayshon Boutte? Do you put Polk Baker ahead of him? Afton Chisholm is barking at his heels as well. But a guy that is not in potentially the top 4 or 5 for your team, and he is the 12th highest salary on this roster. That right there, I think, unfortunately seals his fate. Of you're going to move on from that. You're not going to carry that into the season, and it makes sense, unfortunately, for the Patriots to make a move like that. And when you're that high up and you're not in a starting spot, the figures don't math. The math isn't mathing, as the kids are saying these days. So Kendrick Bourne, I think, is on the chopping block. He is going to need an absolutely, standout training camp and preseason. And I think, unfortunately, even that means he's even, let's call it, putting an interview out or putting game tape out for other teams to say, let's go get this guy at a discounted rate because we need help with the wide receiver position. I do not see him helping the Patriots when it gets to regular season time in 2025. Additionally, looking at a defensive player that could actually find his way to the chopping block, and that would be Anthony Jennings, the outside linebacker edge. Has not blossomed, we'll say, in the same way that certain players have for the Patriots, and with additions like Harold Landry and Clavon Chasen coming in, it puts Jennings further down the roster and kind of in the same boat of Kendrick Bourne, where your salary cap figure is higher than what your value is to the team. It makes it a very easy calculation at the end of the day. And for Jennings, who's making 5.3 million, and Kendrick Bourne, I just was amiss not giving you the figure. He's actually at $7 million for next year. And again, for a guy that's not a starter for you and potentially not even on the two deep in your top wide receivers, it's kind of telling. So for the same thing for Anthony Jennings, he's fighting to be a backup at that outside linebacker position. If he's not at least a backup for the 16th ranked player, just salary cap wise, that's not what you want from your roster. And your roster construction needs to change, and Elliott Wolf knows that. So it, again, puts Jennings at the top of that list where you could potentially move on from him and not see a huge drop off. And, what's your ROI for those positions? And looking at your top 25 contracts, that top half of your roster, you want to make sure what you've invested in is producing out on the field. And if you're not seeing consistent production and seeing, snap counts well above 75% for those top 25 guys, you have to seriously consider their value to the roster. And I think that's the type of decisions that Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf will be facing once the Patriots get into training camp, through training camp, and into those pivotal preseason games. We finish up looking at defensive player, and for me, there was two that I'd like to actually feature as guys that could really impact the defense. And while Anthony Jennings, again, could impact for them, I think the salary cap figure there is just too much. The contract is not going to justify the spot. So for me, if you do move on from him, what's out there that could actually help you replace? And the first could be a return of an old friend, and Matthew Judon is still out there. And again, it will play the same game as Brandon Scherf. And what all the free agents right now are doing is biding your time and finding the right situation. And agents are going to want to maximize potential and say two options, right? You either get the biggest contract possible, lengthwise and money wise, dollar figures, or you get put in a position that you're chasing a championship, and that's what you've decided you want as your veteran status. Matthew Judon could absolutely do either two of those things. The third would be Robert Kraft would need to sell him on quote-unquote coming home, understanding that, hey, we weren't going to be competitive, go put you to Atlanta, at least give you a shot. Doesn't work out. Now, could you come back and say, look, this is a brand new team with Drake May, with Mike Vrabel, having a shot at really being disruptive and, making that next step. And, well, again, wanting that veteran deal. And that's where the Patriots are really playing the game. And every team in the NFL is right now, because you want to be mindful of those salary cap numbers and be set up for success should things happen. And say you do have an injury and you can't decide to, quote, make these quote unquote veteran deals, that you're able to shell out and get somebody in that could actually produce for you. So again, it would be selling time, and why not do it? You don't have much else going on outside of getting your vacation in before training camp does start. But I think Matthew Judon should absolutely be towards the top of the Patriots list to get that further pass rush and become a real threat up front without really, stunting some of the guys like Brady Swinson, the rookie from LSU, and allowing guys to produce as well. And the second one for me, and looking at it with Christian Barmore and Milt Williams up front, absolute, hosses there. And, Karis Tonga wants to be in that rotation. And I think there is room for one big boy up front. And for me, that would be the 27-year-old, surprisingly unsigned Raekwon Davis. Now, he was an absolute stud coming out of Alabama, and at 6'7", 330 pounds, you can see why, Miami took a chance in Indianapolis. I'm still in the NBA Finals. Sorry, Pacers fans. But why they took a shot at this guy. He has not produced and been put in the right situations, I think, either. So being able to be in the rotation with guys like Williams, like Barmore, and starting to learn what goes into really being successful, it could be a really good flyer. Now, Davis made $7 million last year. This is the reason the Colts decided not to bring him back. And now, while you have veteran deals for guys like Judon Scherf, Raekwon would really be in that quote unquote prove it category where you say, we're going to bring you in for a veteran minimum, we'll bring you in for $1 million or two, and say, look, you want to reestablish your value, and this is the place to do that. And I think if the Patriots can really utilize him, especially on first and second downs, as that space eater, run stopper, and then be able to get him in rotationally in potentially some pass rush situations as well, it could really maximize his potential and his value, help out the Patriots in the short term, and hopefully reestablish his long-term value in the NFL too, and absolutely someone that I would be kicking the tires on. That'll do it for us here on this episode of Pat's Latest. Again, make sure you get down in the comments. Let us know who you think the Patriots should move on from and who they need to sign before they get into training camp. Make sure you go down and give us a like. Go back and check out all of our old episodes so you know exactly what's going on with your New England Patriots. And keep it locked here as we bring you everything coming out for the Pats. Fight on, Foxborough.